Okay, good morning, everybody. As the introduction already said, I mean, the room is not completely full, and I was wondering how conferences might look like in 10 years' time, because probably we have then 50 real attendees and maybe 50 others in holograms or whatever might happen in the future. Anyway, the future is ours, and we are going to build them. And I'm going to explain a little bit about how we try to adapt a factory and to adapt our vendor portfolio towards this future in the apparel industry. Now, people talk about Industry 4.0 for quite a while, roughly 10 years. And so in 2014, I attended a masterclass in how to lead the factory of the future. And I visited a company which is Siemens in Hamburg, and they explained a little bit about how they work with Industry 4.0, and I thought this is really something, if I ever get the chance to do that, I'm going to do it. And fortunately in 2015 I became managing director and I could do that. So I'm going to talk about an infinite game of the smart factory, and I'm going to start with this. This was January 1990. I received it was like a master certificate for tailor, for being a bespoke tailor. Besides left, this is the Minister for Labor from Germany at that time, Blüm. And I was super proud at that time because I thought, okay, now I have the certificate, now I have learned what I need to learn for my life, and I can open my tailor shop, and I'm going to be super successful in whatever I do. Of course, what I learned immediately was that this was just a moment in time, and it means nothing to have this certificate, because you learn that you have to learn much more in life than just what this certificate may ever tell you. And so I postponed this idea of opening my own tailor shop and went into the industry, and I found out that there are lots of people who are smart and lots of great people out there that you can work with and that you can learn from. And in 2015, as I said, I became managing director of Hugo Boss in Izmir, and I was surrounded by 4,000 people. And if you want to feel physically complexity, then you surround yourself with 4,000 people and try to feel responsible for them, because as a managing director you somehow take responsibility for these people. So I surrounded myself. I'm the dark dot in the middle of these people, and I thought, okay, this is the amount of people that we have. These are the resources that we can start building a new factory, a new venture, a new idea of a smart factory concept. And why did we do this? Because we all feel that things change, and things change ever more fast. In our world, in the apparel industry, nothing is like it was 20 years ago. If it is about the customer and the experience and whatever. So the retail and sales channel change. In the past, designers were meant to forecast the future of fashion. They were meant to tell the people in the shops what's to be in fashion and what's hot and what is not. Nowadays we have influencers, and we have lots of people who say who will tell the audience what is in fashion, and basically a lot of brands have to follow. And what is online and what is offline is not any more different. So the information of customers change the retail landscape, and the expectation of online and offline business is changing the whole principles of how to design and how to produce fashion. And I found this video which is interesting. It's 1995, and it was a funny movie. But the thing is, what I like very much is that at that time they pretend to have like a fashion advisor, a digital advisor, and she is touching the screen, although at that time there was no touch screen. Of course, it was completely fake. But what you see here is that you actually have an advisor, digital advisor, to make this rich kid go nicely to the college. And this was 1995, so at that time we were thinking, wow, if ever we could have something like this. Now today, there's a lot of this happening. You know, we have lots of apps who give us advices. We have a lot of curated shopping. We go to online retail And we have curated shopping immediately. We have the services who send us stuff at home and which we like, algorithms who analyze our behavior, wearing behavior, and give us advices. So a lot of what was at that time predicted is actually live nowadays, and it's more and more personal. And the interesting thing about technology is that it has made us human again, as crazy as it sounds. But when I started to work as a tailor, I would make a product basically for one person, for one dedicated customer. I had a one-on-one connection on the customer. In the later 90s and the early 2000s, everything was about the brand. You would buy Hugo Boss as a brand. You would buy Adidas and Nike and whatsoever because you would like to be part of this brand story. Now, with all the social media coming into place, we as customers have become visible again. So I can have a one-on-one connection with a brand. I can immediately react in Twitter and in Instagram on what's posted from brands. Which means like the brand is something I still want to participate in, the brand story, but I want to be seen as a single customer, as being me. Now that changes the whole concept of production and the whole concept of following brands and following trends. So as Hugo Boss, we react on this with a pilot that we are currently running, which is called Made for Me. So we make things for customers, single customers. Again, why I'm going to explain because of the production. So this incredibly changes the complexity of production. If you have single-piece orders, if you have small batch orders, if you have a single dedicated production for single events like Chinese Valentine's Day or a Shanghai capsule collection or whatever, New York events, then you have to change the way how you think and how you manage complexity. And that changes the way of sourcing, the way how you source, the way how you get your products for the collections. You cannot just do the same game like where's the cheapest producer I can find and then they ship in 6 months and I get my stuff. This is not going to work anymore in this world. You have to be super fast and super flexible. And it's interesting that we see lots of companies, even Asian companies like Chinese companies and Vietnamese companies, opening or buying factories in Europe because they understand that they have to get closer to the market, and also Mexico and Canada is the same topic. So things getting closer to the customer to actually react on that. Now, clearly, one size does not fit all. I mean, there's lots of different markets outside. There's lots of different issues and solutions for that. And it's clearly not that when people talk about nearshoring, then of course I don't believe that we are going to shut down all the factories in Bangladesh and in Ethiopia and everything is going to be produced in New York and in Shanghai and in Tokyo because the customer is there. It's not one size fits all, but we have different methodologies and different channels that we have to deal with and have to work with. In our industry, that means if I look to the upper apparel and premium factories, that means that we on one hand have a very tailored approach. We have a very handmade and very dedicated approach of producing a product, which has basically like 3 times the production minutes than the regular production has. And on the other hand, we have the mass production, which at the same time has to be super flexible, super fast, and really high-tech to actually cope with the time issues, but also with the quality and with the material issues that we have, because also lots of products and materials change. So there's clearly, I don't see that everyone is going into light-out factories, robotize everything, but it's clear that we have these two worlds, and there's a reason for them to exist because of the closeness to the proximity to the different customers we have nowadays. That for us, this means we have to react on that. And I'm going to show you a small teaser on that now, what we are going to become as Hugo Boss in Izmir. So Hugo Boss Izmir as a factory will become a platform for products and services and knowledge. And it will be a marketplace for whatever is needed. And that's a very different change in the way of how to manage it and also how to train people and how to manage people. And that is, we were always aiming to become a smart factory. The next journey is for sure to become a marketplace for products and services. Now, how does a smart factory work? We think about 4 levels that we think about when we manage Hugo Boss Izmir as a factory. First up, one level of that we think about is people. And now we are a people-heavy industry, and it will always be a people-heavy industry. And that means that we have to care about this. If people think they can just buy some electronic gadgets and some stuff, invest in IT and become smart, that's not going to happen, I can tell you right away. The biggest thing that you have to think about is your people, and this will be in the future as well. So what we understood is we need very fluid organizations. These kind of people talk about silos and people talk about get rid of silos, but what does it actually mean if you talk to a manager, give up your responsibility of one dedicated area and just start thinking about tasks, thinking about some to-dos and thinking about the people that you need for this for a moment in time, and then you move on and do something else. That's really tricky to do that, and that is something that why I'm absolutely a fan of flat hierarchies, because the higher the hierarchies are, the less able you are to do that. If you have dedicated managers for each and every step, it's really hard to get rid of this and make things fluid. If you have a flat hierarchy, it's much easier to do that and make people do something that is not typically on their task list, on their to-do list, what they are paid for and what is in their contract. So fluid organizations, I guess, is one thing is a big challenge, but is one thing I cannot emphasize enough on this. Then it's about, of course, it's about innovation. People talk about innovation a lot. And I've been to Tesla in 2017, and the first thing that I saw there was not the car, but was 1,500 software engineers making the software for this car. Now, what I understood is that innovation for them is something that they want to have as a daily doing, and we do the same. We invest in a 3-year plan and said we want to become an innovation excellence company or factory, so that everyone is innovative. We don't want to have an innovation department, an innovation team. We don't have these innovation, we have these crazy people out there. We want to be everyone crazy. Everyone should have innovative ideas, and everyone should participate in different thinking, not just operational excellence, Kaizen methodologies, but also thinking out of the box. And we do a lot, and we invest in a journey. That's why you see it's a 3-year plan to invest in this self-innovation. And I believe that this is the better solution than just building a team and putting all the crazy people together, which basically makes them aliens to the rest of the organizations. They will be also always seen as, these are the innovative guys. We make the business. That should not happen, because this is probably you will not get the infiltration of innovation into your daily business. That's why we invest in this part heavily. Hyperlearning, we have to understand how to learn something, and Bill Gates also says how we have to unlearn. We have to learn how to unlearn things. And that's also not so easy. I mean, typically you add up learnings, you add up stuff, and you are adding lots of certificates. You go to conferences and master classes and whatsoever. You're piling up knowledge. But the thing is that it's not worth to keep it in your head, because if it is maybe 10 years old, it's just gone knowledge, and you should just unlearn it, make room for something new. So we invest a lot in methodologies of training people and learning fast new things, and we have just halved, and you see this, we have just halved the training times and efforts for these people to make them understand more. Now, something that we also understood is that the people that we have are different learners and thinkers and players today. I don't know if you know this gentleman here, Ninja. Does anyone know Ninja? Anyone here? Yes, 1, 2. Okay, 2 people. That's actually a lot. I just want to tell you, it's a lot. I spoke at another conference with like 500 people, and they were like non-knowing Ninja. So Ninja is a 20-year-old gamer in Fortnite. He's one of the most successful gamers in Fortnite currently. And I've seen a video game from him. You should watch him in YouTube and watch him play this game. You can hardly follow him. You can hardly recognize what he's doing. And there's a video in YouTube, him playing with a 7-year-old boy, and they play as a team. And then you can, as I said, you can hardly understand what they do, and then all of a sudden the game is won. I was just wondering, this 7-year-old boy on the weekend playing in such a lightning speed, and then on Monday morning sitting in the class watching to a green, you know, like, I mean, sitting in the class and watching teacher talking about something in a classical way. That's not matching anymore. It's not, our school system and the way how we teach is not matching anymore. And the same is what we understand when we train our people. It's not matching anymore, the classical methodologies. So we think we have to gamify, and we have to make the learning sessions a quest. We have to make it an adventure to learn something. People should like to learn something, and we have to gamify it. So what you see is just to talk about games, because people hate it, and they say, I don't like my kids to play games, and yeah, I don't either like this too much, but you see the revenue. I mean, the gaming industry is 2.5 times the music and film industry together. It's not going away. Your employees will not do this anymore. They will play whatever it is. And I see all different generations playing whatever, in the planes, in the airports, at home, whatever. It's not a kid's topic anymore. It's something that the society has embraced. It's not going away. So think about this when you think about teaching. So we make our curriculum, we make our teaching a quest. We make it an adventure. And I think this is really important to understand, that you will have people liking learning if you make it in the way they like it. And so gamifying learning is very important for us. That's why we created a journey which is called Virtual Dojo XR. We work a lot with mixed reality topics, and we work a lot with, also we flirt with new technologies which we have no clue about. And we try new things like holograms. We do platforms with augmented reality, with virtual reality. And we train thousands of operations here with these new methodologies, and the people love it. You know, in the past we had maybe 5, 6, 7 operations per operator. Now we have 13, 15, 20. So we make the people understand more, make them more flexible, but in the way they like to learn. And I think this is very important to talk about people. Now, talking about, I'm completely running out of time, I see. Okay, talking about products. Of course, the product is important for us, and we measure a lot of data. We measure a lot of information. And why do we do this? Because we have to cope with our fluctuation. Sometimes we have menswear, sometimes we have women's wear to produce. Sometimes blazers, sometimes dresses, sometimes trousers. So we track a lot of informations to actually manage this high flexibility with the people being trained in a lot of different operations. We collaborate together. We believe that this is a team sport. It's not something that just one line can be responsible for. So we make people really move. I talked about fluid organizations before. We make people really move between men and women and shirt production. And we make them accountable. And I'm going to show you a video which shows how we do this. Now, what you see here is people actually changing the layouts. So we have put our production, our sewing machines on wheels. And what you see here is that between 2 shifts, like the morning shift is maybe producing a coat, and the afternoon shift is producing a dress, which means like the layout is different, the machine setup is different, the whole setting of the line is different, and typically this is done by mechanics in the past. But we have trained our people so that they can do this. We explain them the whole setup and the layouts, and they do by themselves. And in the beginning, it took them like 40 minutes, maybe 50 minutes to change the layout between the shifts. Nowadays, we target about 5 to 8 minutes. So in 5 to 8 minutes, they just change, I mean, the shift, the leaving shift, they just clean everything, they take away their stuff, then the new shift comes in, they change the layout towards their job, they start preparing the machines, make everything ready, and off you go. And you see, this is the new layout, and everyone starts working for the different product. We do this on a daily basis nowadays with like 5 lines we have, so we do this every day. And it's crazy if you see it because it looks like strange if people start unplugging machines, but they just do it, you know. And this was unthinkable a couple of years ago. So talking about products, talking about processes. Now, everything when you talk about when people think about digitalization and Industry 4.0, you know, they visit our factory and say, "Oh, wow, I like this technology. I want to have this." Yes, I mean, it's great. If you look at 1,600 tablet PCs and Andon boards and everything is running so smoothly and we have lots of data coming. But clearly, if you have messy analog processes, don't digitize. Please don't digitize. First, you clean the mess. First, you clean your processes. First, you make something that makes sense. Then you build a digital copy of this. Because otherwise, you have to deal with 2 factories which are messy. If you cannot have if you have not a proper analog organization, it will never help you to digitize it. That's really important because you will invest a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of energy in digitalization and understanding the digital concept, the digital twin. And if it is a messy twin, you will have like nothing. So that's really important that processes have a certain stage of maturity, and simplicity is super important. Don't just structure something and be proud of a complicated structured something. Make it as easy as possible because there are lots of people predicting a complexity in our industry. People tell that in 2025 we are probably having the double the complexity that we have today. So if you think about your daily life that you have nowadays, and sometimes you're overwhelmed with what you do today, now think about this 5 years later, and it's double the amount of complexity. How do you handle this? I mean, you cannot employ double the white-collar people, double the managers and whatsoever. You run out of cost and you will not be profitable anymore. You will be out of the game. So it's super important to simplify what you do today in order to have space for the complexity that's coming in the future. And then if you have simplified it as the maximum as you can, then you can digitize this, and it will help you very much. And we have a lot of experience in this in the last 4 years. And this is not easy, simplifying, because people tend to, you know, make things complex to have a meaning, a reason to exist. You know, I'm here because I'm the only one who can handle complexity. My life is so complicated. You have no idea. No one can change me because I'm the only one who knows this complex world. Sorry to say, but these are the wrong people. These are the wrong people, and this is the wrong statement. You need people who have the courage to say, you know what, I organized my life so much, it's so simple, I have 40% of my time free for everyone who comes and has an issue. If you have these managers, keep them, nurture them, walk with them, you know. So simplicity is super important before digitizing. We call it the no user interface. That's an interesting approach, like talking to a room instead of just going for the next switch. Talk to devices, talk to pieces like Alexa and something else. We have devices where we talk to. We have managers who just ask the computer, say, can you give me the current efficiency rate? What is the absenteeism rate of today? And the system just gives the information. That's simplicity in terms of the outcome. This is called, we call it ADA, we call it additional active digital assistant, and it gives us a lot of information by just talking to the device. So, last layer that we think about when we think about the digital factory is machines. Now, machine data for us, it's interesting not just because of predictive maintenance. I recently was asked about what is the outcome of machine data. What are you planning out of this? What is your expected outcome? And I always say that yes, on one hand, we will probably reduce maintenance costs because we know more about the machines. and we have predictive maintenance. We will have less downtimes. Yes, that's true. I'm more interested in the connection between the human and the machine, because machine data is like music. If you make a proper connection between the person that is producing something and the machine that is giving the data, then you can combine this music. And if you can compare this music, if you can bring this together and make it a harmonic music, then you can improve your efficiency significantly. So what I'm looking for the music of machines, and then bringing it in context with the people that are working with these machines. And that's interesting because this is a concept coming from sports. If you, for example, if you are in rowing, if you know about rowing, people measure the sound of the pedals going into the water with microphones in the water. They measure the sound and they measure the synchronicity, how synchronized the athletes are. And also with the angle they touch the water, they can hear from the sound and optimize the rowing team by just analyzing the sound, the music of this. And if you think about this for your machines, if you can understand the music of your machines and putting it into context with people, then you can optimize your production significantly. That's what we are aiming here with the machines. It's not an easy task, just to say this. For us, it's way easier to have the upper three, but we are working on this heavily. So high machine and high human density, that's why it is so important for us. If you have very expensive machines like 200 employees, probably not so interesting for you. You are more targeting the predictive maintenance part. We are targeting very much the machine and human interactions. That's what we are interested, because we have, as I said, like 3,500 machines that we measure, and we have about 4,000 people that we measure and that we can put into context to each other. Now, we invested a lot in IT. The first thing that we understood is we have to build this digital twin, so we have to build data and we have to create sensors. And then the second was we collected data. We started to collect information, so we start to understand them. Now, at the current time, we are on the way to make sense of this data, which means like writing algorithms and predicting the future. And that is really a beautiful moment when you start understanding what's going to happen in your factory or in your organization in the next week, in the next month. And in quality, we have determined some algorithms which can spot on, say, the probability of making a mistake for a single person, for a single operation, even on the color of the fabric. And that's great, because then we can make counteractions and we can avoid mistakes being made just by algorithms. Algorithms are leading our world. It's not the same story as gamification. It's not going away, and you have to closely look at it. You should get a basic understanding about algorithms and what they can make for your organizations and with your organizations. And we work a lot, especially when it comes to the planning of our work stuff. We have a lot of algorithms working here and optimizing our factory. Now, I said this is our future is becoming a platform, and you see that we have a journey, and this is why I'm explaining this as a wheel. This is not something that is going to have like I have a 3-year plan and then I have achieved what I achieved. This is not going to work like this. Technology is constantly changing us, and the market is constantly influencing us. So we started in 2016 with digital transformation. 17, we were thinking about automation. 18, we started with artificial intelligence, embracing the algorithms and flirting with them. This year, our topic is connecting the dots, and you're going to see a video very soon. And then in the future, we become a platform, and onwards we go with this idea of becoming a platform and being somewhat a center of excellence. So it's a journey. It's not something, digitalization and smart factory is not something that you make a 3-year plan and then you will have achieved it. Now I'm going to show you this video because this shows you what we have done. What you see here is real. It's not like fake for a video. This is something that we actually do. So we do things. We flirt a lot with technology. We try a lot. We make a lot of prototypes and a lot of pilots. And there's a lot of stuff not working. And I didn't want, because this is like an hour video if we talk about the things that don't work. But it's super important to flirt with new technologies and try things and play. I always tell, you know, sometimes I'm making a business trip, I buy some gadgets, I give it to some engineers or whatever and say, start playing with it. There's something in it. I feel there's something in it, start thinking about it. And that is super important. That is why I said simplicity is so important, that you have time for playing, so that you have time for understanding technology and what it might mean for you and for your industry, for your organization. So then you can make sense in a financial way. So as you have seen, this video stopped with Hugo Boss Solutions, because you might ask, and I was also asked several times about, okay, that's great what you do in Izmir, but what do you do with the rest of your vendor portfolio? I mean, you have not just Hugo Boss, Izmir as an own production, you have also lots of partners that work with this. And there's actually a transition going on. So what we understood is we have lots and lots of visitors coming to Izmir and wanting to understand how we do things. So we started with this team. It's called Hugo Boss Solutions. Why it's called Hugo Boss Solutions? Because we actually, what we do is we try and learn a lot of stuff, and when it is ready and we have the feeling that it is useful for the rest of our portfolio or for others, then we start getting in touch with these people, or they get in touch with us, and we talk about this solution and making it work in a meaningful way. So you see, we have the Hugo Boss suppliers working, and we have Hugo Boss Izmir as a global organization, and then we have companies that we also consult, that we help, who are not necessary, not even in our industry. That's not needed, because what I was talking about before is actually valid for everyone. Talking about the digital twin, talking about the response, talking about the market proximity, talking about speed to market, and the way how to manage fluid organizations. So we start working with this, and it's also quite young, it's quite new, it's quite fresh. The team is very energized and is very positive about doing something and changing something in our industry, just not leaving it to some, how can I say? I mean, our industry, I don't know about your industry, but our industry is a clear caravan. You know, you typically don't evolve your production, you don't improve your production, because you just go to the next cheapest country. And we don't believe in this. We don't believe in this situation, like always moving to the next cheapest country and just not improving the technology. And that is why we try to push our industry towards a new direction, which is improving it in the current situation, improving it in the current location, and making it more profitable and adapting it to the future of our markets. So we make digital checkups. We try to help people understanding their current status and understand where they are and how they are, and really make them understand what is ambition and what is true. You know, you find lots and lots of PowerPoint presentations on the planet about Industry 4.0. When it comes to real life and you want a real help, not so many are there who are actually making cases and are really doing this. So that is, I think, a very important thing. And my last slide is this. I can just invite you also to, there's a new book which is called The Infinite Game. It just is released, I think, today, from Simon Sinek. I'm an absolute fan of Simon Sinek, and what I like from this Infinite Game is that it is absolutely changing your thought if you start thinking infinite. And if you're not thinking about something like a yearly or 2-year or 3-year target to become smart, because this is not how it works. Technology is something, people talk about Industry 4.0 now. We will also talk about Industry 5.0, 6.0, 7.0. It's not something that stops there. And technology is something that you have to constantly put into your organizations and make the organization ever smarter. And especially when it comes to people, you have to give them this infinite feeling, because learning and embracing new technology, bringing it into your management systems, is something that is not stopping in the next 3 to 5 years. It's something ongoing. We believe in this. We are training our managers very much towards this behavior. and this mindset, and I can only invite you to do the same, and this is my last statement. Embrace the infinite game. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I think what is very important is to, in a way, to create an uncomfortable situation for managers. You know, I mean, as a leader or as a managing director, you have to, of course, you manage a lot of daily to-dos and daily tasks. But what you have to make clear for an organization is that it is not enough. What took you here will not take you there. So then if you create a kind of uncomfortable situation, like, okay, this is probably not going to save my job in the next 5 years' time, then you can also create an openness to change things. And then the question is, shall I improve, like operational excellence? Shall I continue to improve? Yes, of course. Is it enough for nowadays times? Probably not, because we are disrupted. Our industries are constantly disrupted by new kids on the block, by new players. And they do this with things which are not common. And that creates this kind of urgency to be innovative and to do something differently. And then, as I just said, then you need a system.
And you also showed in your video, some examples of new technologies that are using within Hugo Boss. Are you at the stage where you're thinking of using additive manufacturing at some point in time? Are you looking at this technology?
Yes, I mean, additive manufacturing is probably one of the big problem solvers when it comes to sustainability, because it actually only produces what's needed. Now, are we ready in our industry for additive manufacturing? Honestly speaking, I don't think so. I think we are ready when it comes to machine parts. For example, we have, in the video I've shown, we have a small team of engineers and operators, which is called Technology Lab, and we invent and we develop new machinery. Because what you have seen is a lot of technology that is not on the market. So we try to build it by ourselves. We can decide to wait, or we build it by ourselves. And in this case, when it comes to machines, we build a lot of parts with 3D printers, and yes, we do that. If it is about maybe some accessories like cufflinks or something like that, yes, might be that we come to this. Jewelry is already very much into it. Clothes, dresses, I don't think so yet.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the audience? My colleague can pass you the mic.
Hi, Joachim.
Hi.
What's the biggest challenge that you think technology needs to solve for Hugo Boss?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we right now have is that we have to determine what technology we actually need and what not. You know, as a person, I'm super interested in technology, and I'm really a geek in tech stuff, you know. I love this. But when it comes to execution, when it comes to business, then you have to really find out what is actually useful. And there's lots of stuff which makes a lot of noise, and when you start working with it, you realize that it is either of no value, or it is too complicated, too expensive, or whatsoever. So I think as us, when I think about production, we have to really find out what's the appropriate case for technology to be put in. As one example, we are very much working with virtual reality and augmented reality right now in terms of training. Now, if you look at games and if you look at Fortnite and whatsoever, you might not see an immediate correlation to training efforts for our blue-collar operators. But if you talk about the technology that's behind, then you realize that there's lots of interesting aspects of this technology that can make people learn easier. So this is what we are constantly searching for. We are searching the market for new gadgets and new technologies. People talk about 5G now. Is it ready yet for implementing into industry? People talk about low latency and having access to machine data ever faster. Is it ready yet for our industry? I don't think so, but we are following it closely. So I think this is not easy to be on one hand attracted to technology and at the same time thinking about the business case behind.
mean, you mentioned using technology to bridge the skill gap.
Yes.
Now, but as people, as blue-collar workers or who's new to technology, how do you overcome that challenge of asking people you need to use this tool? Like, what's the cultural change that you're building within your organization?
So what you just made is the death of introduction. Yeah, because what you just made is you said, you have to use this tool, you know. This is the death of technology in production, because it will never ever work. Whenever people can avoid to work with this technology, they will do. Whenever you turn your back to them, they will stop doing it. Yeah. So that is one of the most important things that we understood, is that whenever we introduce technology onto the shop floor, it has to be accepted without training. So whenever we start, so if we give new technology like tablets, we introduced 1,600. We put 1,600 tablet PCs on the shop floor. We had to install a high-density network from Cisco. There was lots of jobs to be done to make this run as smoothly as possible as their private phones. What we found out is that we gave them like 10 minutes training about how to use this tablet, and that was it. Never asked again. You know, there was no complaints, no nothing. People put flowers on these tablets because they said it's so useful. It makes my life so much easier. And whenever we introduce, we work in sprints, we work in Scrum. So every 2 weeks we introduce new technology, new functions. And if it is not, we just release it. If it is not self-explaining, it's going back to IT. That is absolutely not working. And the same is with these mixed reality topics that we work with, virtual reality. If you introduce technology that people like, that's why we put so much, that's why we listen so much, or we look so much into private life of our employees. If we find something that people like in their privacy, they will like it at work as well. Okay. So we understand that people like to play. Then why not learn while playing, you know? The question is, how can we do this in a way that they accept? But technology has to be embraced and people have to like it. Otherwise, it's going to be a very, very hard job.
Any other questions from the audience? Just a second. Danny, can you get the mic, please? It'll be nice if you all introduce yourself as well when you ask questions.
My name is Rashid from Menderes Textile. Thank you. What do you use AI and big data algorithm for your process? How to create?
So talking about AI is also a bit geeky, because I mean we have what we learn from working with algorithms is that we are digging something here and we are finding something there. You know, so big data, you create a lot of data, you have gigabytes of data, and you have a lot of assumptions, start digging into this data, and then you find out it's not coming, it's not useful enough, it's not enough, it's not clean enough. So you go to talk to IT people, they say, sorry, I cannot see anything in this data, it's just noise, you know. So, do you stop? No, we don't stop. Yeah, then we start thinking about, okay, if this is noise, maybe that is not noise. So what we have learned, for example, from machine data is super critical for us, but it's super complicated to get the information that we want. And we are still, after 3 years, we don't give up. We are still working on these algorithms, but it's not what we wanted. On the other hand, what we found out is, for example, we have lots of information of our people. And we have built algorithms, for example, where HR department can predict the probability of people, retaining people, like in 3 months' time. So the HR department can know how many people in which lines are going to be replaced in like 3 months or 2 months or 4 weeks. Which means, if I'm a line manager and I'm constantly making my assumptions, I all of a sudden find out, there are like 3 people, they are not performing well enough, they are not behaving well enough whatsoever. They leave the factory because they don't want to work with us anymore. So I'm going to HR department saying, sorry, I need 3 people. And then they start typically looking for 3 people, and then it takes time, so you have a gap, you have open positions and whatsoever. With this system that we have nowadays, it's called Oxygen. I'm going to, as a line manager, I'm going to the HR department and say, guess what? I have just 3 people less because I could not work with them anymore. And the HR department says, guess what? Here you are. These are 3 new people ready trained. That is unbelievable that that this works. I mean, I'm super amazed about this Oxygen project because it's algorithms that give the probability, that tell me what's going to happen in the future with my work stuff. And as we have lots of people working for us, this is a big issue. Not just hiring people, but having them trained. So if I understand, I have, for example, I have a shirt line, and the operator who is attaching the cuff is probably not going to make it in the future. Then I can hire a person, train it on this very operation, and once this person is ready to be dismissed or leaving because by whatever reasons, then I have this person ready and I can just inject it into the line and say, here you are. That is AI at its best. For us, it's super useful, but it is something that was unexpected. It's something that we didn't start digging for in the first place. So there are lots of these issues. We have lots of AIs, algorithms working in this kind of manner, in single issues, where we start digging somewhere, we find out something else, and say, wait a minute, that's interesting information, let's start working there.
Hi, excuse me, I'm Pete Santor from Software Automation. So you said, you talked about getting closer to the customer, and that in the past, this idea of chasing cheapest labor is not going to continue being successful. How much closer does it get for you? I mean, how do you see this capability scaling? Does ISMIR service all of Europe, or does it get closer to the customer?
So as I just mentioned, we have this project, it's called Made for Me. And that is, for example, a project with some pilot stores that we are working with. We started in Europe. And so you go into the store, you order something like a regular Hugo Boss product, but you customize it to yourself, which for us in ISMIR means we have a single piece order. And so we have the urgency of, not only we have the complexity of handling a single piece order, but also the urgency of delivering it fast, because the customer just ordered, he wants it fast. Now, can we scale this? Yes, we believe we can. And we are starting now with some pilot stores in Asia. But it changes the whole way of distribution. Normally what we do is we produce something, we bring it to the warehouse, the main warehouse, then it gets further distributed to the stores. In this way, we have to bypass everything and make direct shipment, because otherwise you cannot do this. This is a whole new process. And as we work with SAP, you can bet that this is not easy. So we have to find new ways and to bypass normal systems and such. But it is inevitable, because we will have more and more of this single collections or single pieces coming, and we have to make the organization fit for this. So talking about scale, I'm not sure if we will see a world where everyone is ordering everything made for himself. Not in the next 10 years' time. I don't think so. We will have still mass production in a way, because of the sheer amount of, also because of the cost of transportation and times and whatsoever. And also we have customers who want stuff now. I'm going for shopping, and I'm not every time I want to wait for something. Amazon has trained everyone with impatience. Everyone wants everything now. So I don't think that we will have lots of customers wanting to wait for shoes or for dresses or clothes like 2 weeks, 10 days, even 3 days. But we will have this. We will have more of these occasions where you have a special movie coming up or a special event in a certain region, and you will make special collections only for this. That is the scale that I believe in.
Albrecht von Graefe, Usto Technologies. In digitalization, you have a lot of topics, I think, where departments have to work together in a different way, have to work closer together, you break down silos of departments, and you infringe, obviously, on what the department used to do and on his sort of on his grown-up sense of how it should be. How do you handle that? That you manage to do that, because it's not so easy sometimes, I think.
No, it's not so easy. No, it's not easy at all. But for example, I'm a big fan of rotation. So being responsible for like shirt for 10 years for me is not a target anymore. It's not something that I would be proud of. But making a career step every, let's say, 2 to 3 years is something I guess we need more. I think we need more. Which means like today I'm responsible for shirt. In like 2 to 3, I'm already thinking about this. I'm making myself comfortable with this organizational area, but I just planned my next step, which is maybe then women's wear, which is maybe then shirt, which is maybe coming from production and then working in logistics. We also have people in HR who worked formerly in production. Why that? That because they know their customers very well. They didn't study everything about psychology and about HR, but they learned a lot about the organization itself, and they are quite well in HR because they know their customers. I'm not sure if you can easily transfer someone from production into finance and from finance into logistics and logistics into, I don't know, maintenance. That's probably, I mean, there are some boundaries and some borders, and there's a good reason not to move everyone everywhere. Of course, you cannot be, not everyone can be a generalist. But what we have to understand, and that's why I'm a fan of this rolling system, is we have to understand that being an expert in one thing for the future is not enough. And I should be at least, I was in San Francisco recently, and they talked about not any more about a career path anymore. They talked about a skill basket. So you would, as an employee or as a manager, you would tell your boss, okay, these are my 5 skills. What kind of job do you have according to that? And that's interesting because you don't study law anymore. You become a lawyer and then you go to pension. But you just say, you know, this is what I am and who I am, and this is what I know, and I'm finding a job for this. And if you start organizing or making your management think about this, it opens a whole new world for your organization, because then it's not easy. You have to give up a lot of ownership, like my department, my people, my team. Yes, temporarily, yes, but not in general. That's something that you have to make clear. I think from a top management perspective, you have to make clear that this is not the future. At least I do this, and I mean, I have colleagues here who can probably prove this. I'm constantly repeating this. It's not enough to be good at one thing. It's not enough to be a specialist in one thing if you see the pace of change that we have.
We've got time for one last question. Anyone else?
Chris Jorgensen, I'm with IPC, Trade Association for Electronics Manufacture. What do you foresee are the hurdles for machine-to-machine communication? Because I hear a lot about the transfer of data in different languages and different formats. So what do you see as the hurdles for that, and what sort of standards do you recognize for going with Industry 4.0 or with shop floor communication?
Yeah, that's a good question. So last year I was at Amazon Web Services, and we talked about IoT, about lots of Internet of Things, and that everything. Everyone talks about the 100 billion, even 1 trillion sensor world and whatsoever. And that means that on one hand we talk about security, like making everything super safe, and on the other hand we talk about everything talks to everything. So how do you have an open communication and at the same time a safe communication? So if we talk about machine to machine, I guess we have to, there's no one answer and one direction that we can go. We will see probably a time where we have closed systems and open systems, and always when we have found a way to securely open our gates, we will do so. For example, the tablets that I mentioned, the MES system that we have in our factory is completely offline. There's no whatsoever connection to the internet. It's a completely detached system. Why? Because this amount of data and this this way of how to handle our data and information is so super important for us that we cannot afford to have any problem with this. And so there's no way that out of this bubble there's any communication with, for example, other suppliers or whatsoever. We would never allow that. There would be always a transfer. So if we think about machine-to-machine data in the future, I think we come to there will be big players, and one, of course, is Amazon, and there are lots of others on the market, who will probably create standards that everyone has to follow. It's like the USB standard that ultimately people follow, and then they come to this point. And we will need this in terms of security, because clearly no one will open his factory. The Industry 4.0 approach is a complete connection between the customer and the supplier of raw materials. Everyone is in the same line connected. That requires an incredible amount of openness for data, for giving information to others, be it before or after my position. And that is only possible if the security of this data is guaranteed. And we are not yet there. I don't see this. So we are still having lots of silos in this chain. Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.